On today's episode of Monetize the Mic, I am joined by the lovely Spencer Snakard. She is an executive transformation coach, trainer, and speaker, and she works with visionary entrepreneurs and transformational leaders who are on a mission to make major impact, helping them to break through barriers to their next level of success while loving life every step of the way and without giving up what matters most to them. She has trained and coached in personal and professional development for nearly 25 years, and her transformative programs cause profound and lasting shifts in participants' lives by getting to the heart of what drives us, what holds us back, and what it takes to be fully and truly fulfilled as a spiritual beings having a human experience. Spencer, welcome to Monetize the Mic. I am so excited to have you.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be here. I appreciate the opportunity to join you and chat with your audience.
Yeah, I'm excited to have this conversation because one thing that we have added so much more into the conversation on this podcast is, and in our message with our master classes and with our clients, is the personal development and transformation that occurs when you get visible.
Yes.
I was just saying,
yeah, I'm laughing because I'm feeling it myself right now. Yes.
Right. Yeah. I was just talking to somebody yesterday about how I was interviewed on a podcast and I was just talking about how when you get visible, right? Not just like some people will do like an interview here and there, right? They'll do that. Like, I did that, right? Check the box.
Yep.
But when you actually say yes to every single week, you're showing up, you're on camera, you're on mic, you're in front of a new audience, you are then confronted with so much. So,
yeah.
Spencer, what are people confronted with when they get visible consistently?
Sheer terror, my friend. No, in all seriousness, yes, fear is absolutely what's at play there. And we do get so confronted by that fear. I mean, we've all witnessed people be torn down essentially when they put themselves out there and there's trolls or there's haters or someone says something or someone says or does something, maybe even with the best of intentions, but somehow it doesn't land the way they thought or expected or hoped it would land. Mm-hmm. And so, yeah, we've all witnessed other people kind of get torn down and none of us want that. Yeah. And so it can be really scary going, gosh, I think you guys attract just the greatest clients. Obviously I am one, but also the other people that I've met in the client networking and so forth, you all attract amazing people that are coming, that are wanting to do this and absolutely do, I believe, all have the best of intentions of how they want to serve and the message they feel called to share. And it can be scary, but it's like anything else. It's like a practice or how do I want to say this? It's like a experience in mastery, really like the path to mastery, to that whole like saying of getting comfortable with being uncomfortable. Because every time we put ourselves out there, we're stepping into this bigger audience, this bigger platform, this bigger way of being seen. It's like we're stepping into whole new territory, like we're going to explore some new planet or something. And we don't know if that planet has its own version of saber-toothed tigers or wildebeests or whatever it is that might be trying to annihilate us. But once we're there for a while and we explore the territory, we go, oh, this isn't so bad here. In fact, it's kind of pretty stinking great. And we get more comfortable. And then we step into bigger territory and we confront new fears again. So it's always, unless you plan on hiding or intentionally keeping yourself small, know that you will be facing and confronting fear. And that's totally a normal part of the process.
So what is it that people are afraid of, do you find? Like when they first start getting visible, like what is it the fear that people won't like them? Is it the fear that it won't work? Like what is the fear?
I think it's unique somewhat for everyone. I think there's definitely things around looking bad or saying something wrong or stupid, or being thought to have said something wrong or stupid, even if you know or think it wasn't wrong or stupid. And really, I think there's also a huge sense of being out of control, almost like we're giving up the familiarity, the closeness, the perceived control, which really I believe we're never truly in control. But there's some perceived sense of control in our own little bubble. And when we go outside that bubble, we're exposing ourselves to what then very obviously seems like lack of control. But
Yeah.
a lot of it, I think, really plays in with kind of who we think we are or who we think we need to be. That
Hmm.
it's like in our own world, in our own bubble, we can to some degree manage that. Even if our intention is to be authentic and straight, and by straight, I don't mean any sexual reference there, like
Hmm.
straight or not straight, but just like
Yeah.
authentic and real and down to earth with things. There's still some level of our identity or who we think we are, how we want the world to see us. Like, do we want to be seen as the brilliant one or the strong one or the caring one or the really committed, save the world crusader one? We all have this sense of who we are, who we want people to see us as. And it really steps into that whole like, what if I don't live up to that? What if people don't think I'm as great as some of the things that I think I can help with? Or what if
Yeah.
I'm out of control in this sense? So
Hmm.
I think a lot of it really plays into that identity and who we think we are, who we think we need to be.
Yeah, there is so much, right? When you get visible, you realize, oh, now I'm starting to think about what do people think of me, right? That
Yeah.
I think one of the biggest pitfalls is comparison. I mean, at every
Yes.
level, at every part of life, when you're comparing yourself to somebody else. And that I think people are at risk of more comparison when you step into the spotlight, because not only are when you're not visible, you might just be looking at everyone else. But
Right.
then when you get visible, are people starting to compare themselves to you? And like, what does that do?
Right.
So can you talk a little bit more about the comparison pitfall?
Yeah, for sure. I think it's such a human thing that we all
Mhm.
do. And, the idea of comparisonitis and whether that be, part of that is about comparing ourselves to others. Like, do we measure up? And that feeling of not being enough. And I think so much of us inherently, what everything boils down to as far as our, our source of issues or our causes of fears is ultimately some version of feeling like we're not enough. We're not good enough, smart enough, credentialed enough, fast enough, funny enough, attractive enough, whatever it is. It's some version of I'm not enough. and
Mhm.
and we very naturally, just through our human nature, who we are as human beings, we judge other people when we see them out there. So part of the comparison is, do I measure up to them? Part of the comparison, when we're not the one on stage, so to speak, is like, I could do so much better than that. But
Yeah.
then we go to put ourselves on stage and we're like, oh crap, there's going to be people out there scoffing at us saying, I could do so much better than that.
And that's so true, because you hear so much criticism about people that are at a higher level that are speaking, right? I mean, you
Yeah.
just kind of summarize it with like celebrities, right?
Yeah.
It's easy to criticize the people that are out there, but could you actually do what they're
Yeah.
doing?
Yeah.
I've like coached clients on just like unfollow people that give you negative
Yes.
energy, or that you feel not that they're giving negative energy, but if you see someone and have negative self-sabotaging thoughts, cut that out of your life, like get it off
Yes.
of your feed. Like you have to be so vigilant about your mental state and about what you're thinking, and what's coming into your space.
Yes, 100%. There's so much about environmental design with our sense of confidence and sense of self, and really being able to pull away from those things like comparisonitis or feeling like a fraud or an imposter, or we don't measure up in some way. That I think that's such great advice that you give to people is, yeah, if
Mhm.
someone, and like you said, it's not like they're truly doing anything to you per se,
Mhm,
but if
mhm.
your interpretation or your feeling of yourself is that it's disempowering or pulls you down, stop putting that in your head. Stop filling your mind with it and your heart and your soul with it. Find things that lift you up and have you feel better about yourself and inspire you and empower you, and
Yeah.
surround yourself with that.
Yeah, absolutely. So, Spencer, you've been getting interviewed on podcasts for a while now, because you've been
Yes.
working with us at Interview Connections, and I
Yes.
love talking about how to show up powerfully as a podcast guest,
Yes.
because that you know, people really feel the energy of somebody that is standing in their power. Like I can tell the difference when I listen to podcasts and someone's maybe they're just getting started, and they're feeling really like kind of weak and timid, versus somebody that comes in and they are just like, you just feel the powerful
Yeah.
energy. So can you talk a little bit about like what are some of your tips for, when you're getting interviewed on podcasts, how do you show up powerfully?
Yeah. Yeah, gosh, there's so many things that come to mind right now. One of the first things is I think just having some clarity around how you want to be showing up. And again, not as a fake way of I'm going to put on this show and like, strap on my costume or my mask for this show, but more just, do I want to be showing up real, vulnerable, authentic? Do I want to be showing up powerfully? And yeah, I think we all do want to be showing up powerfully, but again, it's back to that idea of like, who do I really want to be in the world, and how do I want to connect with people, and what's my message around that, like as I'm bringing that. I found for myself, in fact, it's really interesting. I feel like I've finally gotten in my groove with podcasts, with longer form interviews, and I'm now looking at potentially doing some like TV media type appearances as well. And a lot of times those are like a minute or two or three, and I love getting into some of the deeper stuff where we can have longer conversations like this and talk about backstory and what really drives things. But all of a sudden I'm like, oh crap, how am I going to boil this down to like 1 or 2 minute sound bites? So no matter what it is, I think that you're going out into the world for, even if it's just speaking or speaking at a conference or doing a live on someone else's social media channel or something, is just having some clarity around what's the gist of what I want to say here. And then really trusting yourself. I'm so amazed. I certainly experience this myself where I'll have my own inner doubts or like, oh my gosh, what if I don't pull this off or I look like a fool? But I'm always so amazed too with the clients that I work with who are so advanced in their careers, have done such amazing things, are so successful. And as we work together and they're sharing their private, intimate thoughts with me of like, oh my gosh, I'm not going to be able to do this, or they're going to realize that they're paying me for no reason because I'm not delivering the value, and really it's not that they think they're truly not. Again, it's just those fears and those self-doubts. But I think a lot of it is really trusting ourselves, trusting that you've got the knowledge, and remembering too, most of the times the people you're speaking to, you are the expert. You are the expert, at least in that setting. You may not know everything there is to know or have 27 PhDs related to what you're speaking on, but you know so much more than the people you're sharing with, and really own that every step of the way. And I think one of the other big things, and this I'm hesitating because I'm like, this is kind of deep. Do I want to go there?
Go there. That's what this show is all about.
I really have been, the last year or so, I feel like I've been getting so much more grounded into this belief of you already are everything you need to be. Who you are, as I said, like, I think a lot of our fears is about that we're not enough. I think if we really start from this belief that we are whole and complete and everything that we need, and that I'm going to use a word that puts a lot of people off, but I really mean it, that you are perfect for all that you are and for all that you're not. You are everything you need to be right now and everything you don't need to be right now. And really just standing in that and owning that. I think like all the other stuff, all those other fears and doubts and not enoughness and comparison completely withers away when you really own that, when you really get that. And some people might be like, girl, you're crazy. I can't even start to wrap my head around that, let alone own it. But it's just this very different way of looking. I don't mean perfection, like, you've got the 2.5 kids and live in the 4-bedroom house and drive the Tesla or whatever the latest, perfect, trendiest car is, but just that everything you are already, like it's all there. And when you start to really own that and stand in that, you can really be unstoppable from that point.
Yeah, no, the trust is huge. It's so huge. The breakthroughs that I've experienced with trusting myself have caused the biggest jumps
Yeah.
in growth, right? Because somebody could tell you you're amazing, blah, 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 you're successful. But if you don't trust yourself and you don't
Yeah.
feel it in yourself, it doesn't even matter. It goes in one ear and out the other.
Yes.
So you
Yes.
really have to have that breakthrough in trust. And as a transformation coach, how do you help people with that inner work? Like if somebody
Yeah.
comes to you and they're just like not trusting themselves and not
Yeah.
like really owning their power, how do you help them?
Yeah. Well, a lot of what I do with people is I love doing the deep stuff. I love going in
Yeah.
and really diving deep with people and really getting to the root and the heart of, as I said, things about our identity and who we think we are. And is it true? And usually it's not true with a capital T. There's something happened at some point that had us think we had to be a certain way. And a lot of us, even as adults now, may recognize recognize aspects of that and go, well, I know that's not really true for me anymore. And I don't want to be stuck in that way of being, but how do I change that? And so I like doing really the deep work with people, but part of the kind of the higher level tips or tricks, so to speak, of things related to that is to recognize that one, your thoughts are not, as I just said, like they're not true. They're not fact necessarily. So when you have those thoughts that you're thinking like, oh my gosh, or what if I blow this? Or what if someone judges me? Or what if we go down these doom spirals of everything that could go wrong? What if we start going up spirals of what could go right? It's so funny that we immediately go to all the bad things that could happen. Let's start looking for all the great things that could happen, for the potential and the possibility of things. To really also be, we tend to be so quick. And it's funny, even when I'm in other groups and other settings where things like this come up, how many people are like, oh my gosh, I never even thought that way. We're so quick to look at negatives or what we coulda, woulda, shoulda done differently. How about celebrating successes and wins and what you've done great? And even if it's not like, some award worthy thing necessarily, but just what are some things that have gone well in your life or your day or your week, things that you're grateful for, gifts, sort of those magical moment gifts of life that come along, those little things here and there to go, wow, that was really awesome that happened today. Or that was so great. It's funny, my 14-year-old daughter opened up to me about something the other day and I was like, oh my God, that was amazing.
Oh my gosh, Spencer, I have to send you, well, I don't even know if I'll be able to find it. I saw a video on Instagram of Tina Fey and she was talking, she was being interviewed by Jimmy Fallon. And she was like, having a teenage daughter is like having a crush in middle school. Cause you're just like going to their bedroom and you're like, hey, so like some of us are going to get dinner. Like, do you want to come? And they look at you and they're like,
that is so awesome. And so true. Yes.
You're like, do you want to maybe come along? I was like, I don't have a teenage daughter, but I've been a teenage girl and that's pretty accurate.
Yes. Yeah.
That's so awesome.
Yeah.
But yeah, your daughter opened up to you. That's incredible.
Yeah. So just being able to really like celebrate those moments or things that, some action you took that we're so quick to like poo-poo those things and minimize them and be like, oh, but that was no big deal. Or, oh, I should have done that anyway. Or, well, people were already expecting that. Of course I did that because I had to. We're so quick to like I want to say negativize things. I know that's
like
not
it.
a word.
Invent that word, coin it. I love it. Don't negativize things.
Exactly.
It's so true though, right? We're so quick to be like, you accomplish something and you're like, but I didn't do this. And it's like, well, celebrate the wins, the wins, because that's what fuels you and gets you to move forward.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. Oh my God. I love it. So what else can you share about the inner work? I really want to focus this around like visibility and how just the transformation, like what have you experienced as you've gotten visible in your business? What are the breakthroughs that you've had for yourself?
Ooh, goodness, the breakthroughs I've had for myself.
Yeah, I love hearing the juicy breakthroughs. What have been the breakdowns and breakthroughs?
So gosh, one of them that came in the last year or so has been around really tapping into my strengths. Mm-hmm. It was something that I really wasn't even really on my radar. I mean, I know, okay, we all have strengths and weaknesses, but I was very much of the thinking that I think in our culture is very common of let's try to improve what's not working. Mm-hmm. And I did the Gallup Strengths Assessment, and their whole philosophy is let's improve upon what's already working. Yeah. Because if you improve on what's already working, you can increase that tenfold versus if you try to improve something that's not working, it's like trying to push a boulder uphill. Totally. So, and a lot of that for me was recognizing too that execution of tasks is not one of my stronger points. It's funny. I think I can't remember how many strengths are. I want to say there's at least 30. There's like 27 or 32. There's some huge number of strengths. And all of my execution ones were in the bottom half. So I'm all about vision and potential and possibility and relationship building and not at all about the carry through of the nitty gritty. Yeah. And so that honestly was a big part of why I hired you guys. I was like, okay, I know I need to be on podcasts. I know I need to be taking these steps and pitching myself, but I also know I'm not going to do it because I've been telling myself I'm going to do it for the last however many years and it hasn't been done. So let's outsource this. Let's let someone else who's a masterful at this handle it for me. And I'll just show up and be awesome on podcasts.
I love that. I love that because that's, I don't know if you listened to our episode called The Myth of the Visionary Entrepreneur, but Margie and I talked because she's more the visionary and I'm more the implementer. Yes. And together we make a great team because vision without implementation is really nothing, right? And
Yeah.
implementation without vision is going around in circles. So
Yes.
you need
Yes.
both. You really
Yeah.
do. And being able to recognize that and like take the steps, right? Because I talk to entrepreneurs all the time that they have the vision, like I have this great message and this great story, and
Yeah.
I've got these ideas and I've got this program, but then they don't have the implementation, right? And that's when
Yes.
you need to outsource, hire, get someone to help you with that implementation. So that's just, I acknowledge you for hiring
Well,
us, you
thank
know?
you. Yeah, 100%. Um,
Yeah.
so yeah, and another breakthrough that comes to mind, and this was somewhat early on for me, but this was one of my big ones, was I took months trying to just figure out even what kind of coach I was going to be. I discovered the work of coaching and transformational training over that's been about 25 years now, and had some detours along the way, and was in corporate for a while, and sometimes was getting to do some degree of the work I do now and sometimes not so much. And so I started my coaching practice about 5 years ago. And initially it was like, well, but what I do can benefit everyone and it's good for everybody. And, I kept hearing you've got a niche, niche, niche. And it was like, but I'm not clear and I don't know. And there was this whole fog. And so one day, about 9 months into it, I could have birthed a baby sooner than I could have gotten clarity on this. About 9 months into it, I was like, okay, Spencer, you've got tools, let's use them. And I worked through one of the processes I work with my clients where if there's something that you know you want, you're saying you want, but you're not getting the result for whatever reason. You might have what seems like perfectly valid excuses for why it's not happening, but for whatever reason, there's something you say you want and it's not happening. And so I worked through this process that I do with my clients to figure out why. And I realized, oh my gosh, like this is going to sound totally out of left field, and it usually does. I realized that my husband and I, when we were second marriage, we'd been married a couple of years before he started his business and I started mine. And so we had talked early on about, I'd really like to get out of corporate and do this business. And at the time I had a yoga studio. And so it was about kind of just only doing the yoga studio and not kind of being a full-time career working mom. And he was fully in support of it and like, yeah, that's great. And then I realized I could do coaching and not just yoga. I loved yoga, but really like coaching was at my heart and soul of feeling like it's my calling in the world. And it struck me, I was like, oh my gosh, I have been trying to control or avoid being controlled by some need to continue doing this if I finally get clarity and start putting myself out in the world, because then like I'll never get to be the stay-at-home mom that I was thinking maybe that I wanted to be. So we had talked and he was like, yeah, I'm fully in support of you being home with the kids and not having to work. And so I realized I was totally sabotaging myself by not getting clear on the business idea, because up until then, anytime I started to make more money in life, my expenses expanded with the income, and then I had to keep doing what I was doing, because then it was like our lifestyle expanded with it. So it's like I wouldn't, if I later wanted to say, well gosh, I really don't want to do this as much or don't want to work as hard, I was afraid I wouldn't have the option for that. So there was kind of this like dirty little underhanded thing of, well, as long as I act like I'm trying to get clear, but I don't really get clear and don't really start putting myself out in the world, I don't have to worry about it.
That's so interesting. Thank you so much for sharing that. I think that's so helpful for people to hear because, yeah, self sabotage is a real thing and it doesn't always look like self sabotage,
Yeah.
right?
I
It
looked like I
looks
was working my butt off and I was
right.
pulling some all-nighters. I was like getting my website up. I was talking with people. I was doing pro bono stuff. I was going through coaching school to get officially
Mhm.
certified, and I was doing all the things but lacking that
Right.
clarity. And within a week of that realization, and I had a conversation with him, I acknowledged it to him. I was like, look, I got to kind of tell you something that I just figured
Yeah.
out.
Right.
And we kind of talked about, okay, well, what would this mean then? Or what would that look like if you really do like get out there and start being successful and making money? What does that mean as far as expectations ongoingly? And within a week of that conversation, I was like, duh, mindset. That's like, and I've kind of shifted now where I don't just call myself a mindset coach, but
Yeah.
that was for about 4 years. It was like, oh, that's what I do. I help people get past those mental blocks and be able to move forward and create possibilities and live into them. And so, yeah, suddenly
Love it.
everything clicked, but I had to get past that sabotage of the fear of like the unintended consequences of success, the undesirable consequences of success.
Wow, that's just an incredible example, and I love that you had that the ability, the awareness to kind of step back. I often like find myself, having these conversations with myself where my brain says one thing and I'm like, wait a second, So I think those moments are
Yes.
so helpful. And if you have a hard for listeners, if you have a hard time having those realizations and those conversations with yourself, like having a coach like Spencer is critical. It is so,
Yes.
so important. So how can everyone find you online and learn about coaching with you?
Awesome. Thank you. So, probably the easiest place to go is transformingmillions.com. It's a sign up for a masterclass that I offer. And if anyone listening is thinking, okay, I don't know that I want the masterclass, there's other links on there that you can find me other ways. But transformingmillions.com, it's a free 1 hour masterclass that goes more in depth into some of the things we've talked about today, with really getting clear on what it is that you want, whether it's in alignment with what you really want, and the things that may be getting in the way of that, how to recognize the things that are getting in the way and move past them so you can fully be creating the impact, the business, the revenue, profitability, all of it that you're looking for.
Oh my gosh, that's awesome. And I just highly recommend everyone check out Spencer's work and her masterclass, because this mindset and transformation work is so important, right? If you find yourself going in circles, like if you feel like you're on that hamster wheel of like you just keep adding more strategies and tactics, like chances are there's some breakthroughs that you need to have that Spencer can help with. So transformingmillions.com, go check it out. Thanks,
Awesome.
Spencer.
Thank you so much for having me.